I thought I knew where this show was going, but as of episode 3, I've realized I have no idea where this show is going. Welcome back, everybody. We're here to talk about it. Welcome to Derry, episode 3. Now you see it. And boy, did I see some things in this episode. I saw some things. Honestly, even though this isn't the scariest episode for me, I saw some things that I'm still thinking about and they're still kind of haunting me. So maybe it is scarier than I thought. Before we get into this, obviously, spoiler warning in effect, I am going to be talking about what happened in this week's episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, maybe go watch it before you watch this review. Unless you live vicariously through these reviews and then onward into the trenches. This is an interesting episode because I feel like this episode of It Welcome to Derry is more establishing lore so that later when we go through, there can be even more twists and turns along the way. And there's some pretty cool twists and turns in this episode. I don't think it's my favorite episode thus far, but I think it's doing some essential world building for what is to come. And it is laying the groundwork so that the series can continue to deliver those punches that I've come to expect from the first 2 episodes. The thing that I'll say I love about this show so far is that it's keeping me on my toes. Each week, I feel like I have an idea of where we're going next, and then this show keeps throwing me curveballs, and I freaking love that from a show. I love when I don't know what to expect because it makes me intrigued. You know, if you can predict everything that's coming, it's like snooze fest. Am I right? Let's start off, I guess. I'll start off with a little bit of the beginning stuff that we see because I want to talk about that. It's interesting because we start in 1908, and I thought that this show was going to be an anthology series where each season we're going back in time, but we actually have a flashback to 1908 at the beginning of this episode. So what is that about? It's cool because I feel like we are establishing a little bit of Pennywise's lore back in time, but we're using it. It's there not just to do that. It's there to inform things that are happening in the present day timeline. And by present day, I obviously mean in the 1960s timeline that this season is mainly set in. We learned some really interesting things about characters, and while I thought that everything was kind of more separate, I'm now starting to see how it all weaves together, which was something I was rolling around in my head as an idea of where we could be headed. And I'm so glad that that is where the show is going. I wasn't sure if we were going to do it, but hey, we're doing it. So not only do we obviously have Halloran, who was revealed in episode 2 to be the Dick Halloran, who you know from The Shining, but now we're also learning that the head of the operation, General Shaw, is none other than a child from 1908 who also ran into the entity who we know as Pennywise back then. And not only that, but the woman that runs the antique store that sells furniture and the like, who Holden's wife went to visit and check out some furniture at the shop, and this woman was kind enough to leave the store open from them. She is also in the 1908 flashback. We learn that she is Rose, who Shaw knew and hung out with during an entire summer when they were both 12, when they were both kids. They're friends. And the other thing is we play with the idea of how Derry messes with your mind and how you think you remember stuff from your past, but over time, especially if you have space from Derry, it all fades. And I think that is a really cool little bit that we've established here. So now we have 2 characters that have been established that are already tied into the lore of Pennywise. Plus, we also have the ongoing adventure of our new group of kids, because obviously in episode 1, we're introduced to a group of kids who are all pretty much taken out other than, you know, Lily and Ronnie. So we're continuing Lily and Ronnie's story, and they're also kind of recruiting in Will and Rich, who have become friends at school. I was so worried for Rich in this episode. Oh my goodness. When they had Rich alone in the cemetery, and he's going into the broken kind of mausoleum area, and we see that flash of Pennywise the clown, I was like, I am so nervous. I'm still not even sure that I know what's going on, and that's something that I've been enjoying about this show. I keep questioning that everyone could be Pennywise. I'm waiting for anyone at any point to like pull their face off and be like, it's me, Pennywise. And I guess one of my only criticisms of the show so far is that I don't think there's enough of Bill Skarsgård in it, because we really are getting like very tiny amounts of Pennywise in that form, you know, in Bill Skarsgård's form. There are hints of it, but I don't know. I just miss Bill. He's so great as Pennywise. And I feel like we're being drip fed that. But Will ends up surviving this encounter with Pennywise, ultimately, thank goodness, or so it seems. He makes it back to his friends, but I'm still questioning if it really is Will. I think it is at this point, because they go back to the school to develop the photos. I will say, I think that their plan to take pictures of this monster to prove to the police that the monster is real, to exonerate Ronnie's dad, who's currently being held in prison for the deaths of the kids that we saw in episode 1. I am just like, I feel like that's kind of a crazy plan. But, you know, it is a plan that kids would come up with and be like, I mean, if we get photos of it, evidence, you know? However, even in the 60s, I feel like authorities are probably going to question whether or not those photographs are legit. And so I don't know if it's going to be enough to do what they're hoping it'll do. Also, knowing Pennywise, something's probably going to happen to those photographs. I don't know if they're going to make it to the authorities. And if they do make it to the authorities, will it actually be the authorities, or will it just be Pennywise in disguise? I guess we'll have to wait till episode 4 to find out. The other issue that I had with this episode is just that Lily makes a big deal of going back to the asylum, to the sanitarium. Obviously, that's why she ends up giving up Ronnie's dad, kind of, although she is put into a line of questioning that really leaves her cornered. And I'm also wondering if these police are going to be integrated into the Pennywise lore or not. I think everyone's going to be integrated into it. But then at the end, she's in the asylum and she's shortly thereafter released, because she still ends up getting locked up anyways because of the whole pickle-wise scenario in episode 2. And she honestly seems to not have had too bad of a time. She gets like a prescription and then she's released, and she clearly has a pretty good relationship with the lead housekeeper, who I was also like, is this really a nice lady, or is it Pennywise? But I don't know. She gives her a charm bracelet. She does seem to legitimately be a character, but I'm still suspicious of her. I love how paranoid this show is making me. But Lily gets out pretty easy, and it seems like she didn't have such a bad time. So I'm just wondering, like, what's so bad about the asylum? We didn't really get to see that yet. I guess Lily even going there means that she's going to have a hard time at school. She's going to be bullied for having gone at all. So there's that element to it. But there are just some things here that I'm a little like, nah. I mean, the kids making the plan to get the photos, I'm willing to take that one for what it is because they're younger. But the whole, I don't want to go back to the asylum and then like instantly being released, it feels like we didn't really make that scary. So I don't know if there's going to be more to that. I hope there's more to that we get into. Like I said, this episode is really not as much building up the scares. It's more building up the connections and the lore, and the connections to the lore in the show. So we're more building up like the story of Derry and the story of Pennywise here. We do also get a reference back to something that we see in the intro credits, which I gotta say, I don't know if I've said it yet, but shout outs to those intro credits because they are fire. A smile and a ribbon in my hair is always stuck in my head at the end of this episode. And I never want to skip the credits because I love it so much. And I think something that I've been noticing is there are all these vignettes that we see in the credits. And one that's referenced is that there was an event where there was this big shootout that happened in Derry. And at that event, it's said that the entity that the military is hunting, Pennywise, was seen. So I am wondering if we're going to go back in time to that event and if that'll happen in this season or if that's going to happen in another season, but it is referenced. So I'm loving all these references, and I think we're building a pretty fun mystery here where everything that's been hinted at is going to come together really, really well. I also love that we establish the reservation that's just outside of Derry. And I'm wondering what the secret that Rose told Shaw when he was younger is, and if maybe, Pennywise is connected to that at all. I haven't read the book, but I did hear that in the book, Pennywise is supposed to be, I think, like an alien. But I don't know. This is also a cinematic universe, so we could be doing something different with that. I don't know. And there's probably a lot of stories that people have in regards to what this entity is. I'm very curious to just see all of the pieces come together to give us the full revelation that I think we're building up towards in season 1. So overall, I'm still intrigued. I'm still here for it. I'll be back next week, and I don't really have any big complaints about episode 3. It's making me super paranoid, and I love that. So I think I'm still going to give it a 4 out of 5 for this episode because it's building up some interesting stuff, and it is necessary. It's just not as hype as some of the episodes previously were, I guess, if that makes sense. Let me know your thoughts on episode 3 down in the comments below. Are you loving the show? Are you still not sure what to make of it? Are you really disliking the show? I want to know why. Tell me about it. I'll see you down there. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye. And if you missed my previous episode review, make sure you check that out over here.